What if you could step into another version of your life, on purpose? What if the world you wake up to could be chosen, practiced, and returned from? Tonight, we explore that possibility. The idea of intentionally moving your consciousness into another reality, and whether ancient practices and modern neuroscience can make sense of it. Many people call this shifting. For some, it's a creative exercise. For others, it feels like a genuine experience of an alternate self or place. In this episode, we'll follow the idea across time and culture, look at the viral methods people use today, hear what sleep scientists and anthropologists have to say, and then try a short, safe-guided practice together. If you find it useful, there is a longer protocol in the episode notes you can download and work with later. So what do we mean by shifting? Put simply, it is an intentional, immersive mental practice aimed at experiencing a different narrative or environment, sometimes a fanverse, sometimes a parallel life. The goal is not to prove metaphysical claims here, but to understand the techniques people use, how the brain responds, and how to experiment responsibly. People describe shifting in many ways. Some describe a vivid, dreamlike visit to a favorite fictional world. Others report subtle shifts in perspective, memory, or emotion. Whatever the form, three threads recur: rehearsal, sensory detail, and intention. Rehearsal trains attention, sensory detail deepens immersion, and clear intention guides the experience. Tonight, we will do four things. First, we'll trace the roots of these practices. Look at lucid dreaming research, shamanic journeying, and classical dream traditions that treated dreams as meaningful spaces. Second, we'll examine the modern methods you've probably seen online, the scripting and the so-called Raven technique, layered audio, and other community rituals, and we'll show brief, neutral demonstrations so you understand how they work in principle. Third, we'll bring in the science, what sleep researchers have learned about REM sleep, lucid dreams, and the neural conditions that support vivid imagery and altered states. And finally, we'll guide you through a short, carefully designed session you can try with us now. That practice is intentionally conservative, safe, grounded, and reversible, and a longer version is available for those who want to go deeper. We are interested in both stories and mechanisms. Where did these practices come from? How have people across cultures approached intentional dreaming and non-ordinary realities? How do modern social platforms repackage and accelerate those practices? And crucially, what are the ethical and mental health boundaries we should keep in mind when experimenting? If you're watching, I invite curiosity and caution in equal measure. Be open to imagination's power and be mindful of your limits. Tonight's work is about exploration, not escape. Let's begin by going back in time to where these ideas show up in science and ritual, what researchers call lucid dreaming, and what cultures around the world have called trance, vision, and dreamwork. We'll start with the science of lucid dreaming and then widen the lens to traditional practices and classical dream lore. We begin with lucid dreaming because it's the bridge between what modern sleep science can measure and the kinds of intentional experiences people describe when they talk about shifting. Lucid dreaming is simply dreaming while knowing you are dreaming. Researchers such as Stephen LaBerge helped convert lucid dreaming from anecdote to observable phenomenon by teaching people to recognize the dream state and signal researchers from within it. In lab settings, lucid dreamers use prearranged eye movement patterns to indicate a moment of lucidity, which shows up on an electrooculagram the same way a voluntary eye movement would outside of sleep. That empirical work matters because it demonstrates that some forms of controlled, self-aware experience during sleep can be reliably reported and partially verified. Practical techniques developed in the Lucid Dreaming Literature Center on Attention and Intention. Reality checks, small tests performed throughout the day, like trying to push a finger through your palm or checking a digital clock, are meant to create a habit of questioning the state of consciousness. Mnemonic induction methods such as mild ask practitioners to rehearse the intention to recognize the dream the next time they are dreaming. Sleep timing protocols like wake back to bed exploit natural sleep architecture by interrupting REM cycles and then re-entering sleep with heightened intention. All of these techniques share a simple logic. Repeated rehearsal and salient cues increase the probability that metacognitive awareness will arise in a dream. But intentional movement into other realities is far older than modern sleep labs. Across cultures, people have used ritual trance, journeying, and vision practices to enter what they call non-ordinary realities. Anthropologists, Mircea Eliade being one of the best known, have documented shamanic techniques aimed at accessing alternate realms for healing, divination, or communal decision-making. Common methods include rhythmic drumming or chanting, sensory modulation, fasting or sleep deprivation, and carefully guided ritual frameworks. In many traditions, these journeys are not understood as private fantasies, but as relational encounters with spirits, ancestors, or other beings who are integrated into social life and meaning. The shamanic repertoire is diverse, but some constants appear. Ritual provides structure and a clear goal. Rhythm alters arousal and attention. Symbolic imagery scaffolds narrative content, and experienced practitioners often serve as guides who help novices interpret and integrate what they encounter. These practices are embedded in cultural contexts that define what counts as a valid experience and how it should be handled afterwards. That social embedding is important. What looks like a technique, when stripped of context, often serves a broader social and therapeutic role within its originating culture. When you compare these histories with modern lucid dreaming techniques, patterns emerge. First, intention matters. Cultures and labs alike emphasize setting a clear aim, whether to heal, to consult, or simply to become lucid. Second, rehearsal and cueing matter. Reality checks or ritual passages are repeated behaviors that carry over into altered states. Third, sensory scaffolding matters. Whether through rhythmic sound, vivid imagery, or scripted detail, the more modalities you engage, the richer the experience can become. Fourth, context and integration matter. Experiences are rarely left unprocessed. They are interpreted within social, ethical, or therapeutic frameworks. It's also critical to note limits and variability. Not everyone is equally prone to lucid dreams or deep trance. Genes, sleep quality, prior training, and psychological traits like absorption and suggestibility all influence outcomes. And while ancient and traditional practices frequently operate within supportive social systems with rules and guides, much of the online shifting culture reduces ritual to a set of do-it-yourself steps. That can work for some people as a focused imaginative practice, but it can also strip away essential elements, guidance, integration, and cultural framing that keep experiences safe and meaningful. When you compare these histories with modern lucid dreaming techniques, patterns emerge. First, intention matters. Cultures and labs alike emphasize setting a clear aim, whether to heal, to consult, or simply to become lucid. Second, rehearsal and cueing matter. Reality checks or ritual passages are repeated behaviors that carry over into altered states. Third, sensory scaffolding matters. Whether through rhythmic sound, vivid imagery, or scripted detail, the more modalities you engage, the richer the experience can become. Fourth, context and integration matter. Experiences are rarely left unprocessed. They are interpreted within social, ethical, or therapeutic frameworks. Voices from the community illustrate the range. A long-time lucid dreamer will often describe the first time they became aware in a dream as a jolt of clarity, an abrupt change in perspective that felt both exhilarating and disorienting. A practicing shaman might describe trance journeys in relational terms, emphasizing obligation and reciprocity with non-ordinary entities. And fans who use scripted techniques to enter fictional worlds often describe experiences that look more like intense guided imagination than a literal relocation of self. These differences are not contradictions so much as points along a continuum that includes imagination, trained dream control, ritualized journeying, and culturally framed encounters. Understanding these origins gives us two things. First, it lowers the mystique. Many contemporary techniques are continuations or recombinations of long human practices for working with altered states. Second, it grounds the practice. Whether you approach shifting as a creative exercise or a serious inner work, you inherit a set of tools, intention, rehearsal, sensory detail, and integration that have been recognized across times and cultures as effective for shaping subjective experience. Next, we'll move forward to look at the modern methods that circulate online today, what people call the Raven technique, scripting, and layered audio, and show how those methods connect to the historical and scientific threads we just traced. Now we turn to the techniques people are actually using right now, the methods that circulate on social platforms and in online communities when people talk about shifting. These modern practices mix old principles with new formats. They emphasize intention, rehearsal, and sensory detail, but they're often repackaged as short, shareable rituals. My goal here is to explain what the main methods are, what they appear to do, and to show short, neutral demonstrations so you understand the underlying logic. As always, we'll be careful about safety and cultural respect. Let's begin with one of the most visible trends, the so-called Raven method. The Raven label comes from social clips and memes rather than a single classical source. In its popular form, it's a compact ritual, a preparatory frame, a sensory cue, and a symbolic threshold. People who use it describe creating a specific image or symbol, often a doorway or animal figure like a raven, and rehearsing passage through that symbol into a target scene. The method's power is not magical. It rests on psychological principles we've already discussed: cueing attention, focused sensory rehearsal, and intention setting. Why does this feel compelling on camera? Short rituals are easy to film, they create a shareable script, and they offer a dramatic narrative arc: approach, step through, return. Online, the ritual becomes performative, a visible marker of transformation. That performative element can be useful. It externalizes steps you might forget in private practice, but it also risks flattening context. In many indigenous traditions, ritual symbols like ravens come with stories, responsibilities, and interpretive frameworks. When these images are borrowed as aesthetic props, the moral and relational dimensions are often lost. So when you see the Raven method online, treat it as a contemporary cultural artifact, instructive for technique, but not a substitute for context or consent. Next, scripting. Scripting is perhaps the clearest cognitive cousin to older dream incubation practices. The basic idea is simple. Write a detailed scene in the present tense as if you are already experiencing it. The more sensory specifics you include, smells, textures, dialogue, emotional tone, the richer the rehearsal. Scripting harnesses the brain's capacity for sensory simulation. When you repeatedly read or imagine a vivid script, neural circuits involved in perception and emotion become more readily activated. That priming increases the likelihood that, during a hypnagogic moment, a REM episode, or a deep visualization, your mind will place you inside the scripted scene. A short example of scripting language: I step into the cafe by the sea. The air tastes of salt and roasted coffee. I hear the bell as the door closes behind me. I smell lemon oil and paperbacks. My hands rest on a wooden table. The sunlight warms the tattoo on my forearm. I sit down and she smiles at me across the table. Notice how the present tense, sensory adjectives, and a small arc, arrive, notice, feel, shape an immersive moment. In the episode notes, we've included a script template that prompts you for location, tactile detail, ambient sound, key dialogue, and an anchor gesture or phrase. Writers and fan communities often use scripting to encode character relationships or canonical details. The same technique can be used for therapeutic imagery or imaginative exploration. Scripted rehearsal is a direct, repeatable method, and that repeatability is part of why people report strong subjective results. A third technique common online is layered audio, sometimes called subliminals, sometimes binaural stacking. This category includes two somewhat different practices. One is the use of low-volume affirmations mixed into music or ambient tracks, often with the idea that repeating positive statements below conscious awareness can prime the mind. Scientific support for subliminal self-help is mixed. Brief, subtle cues can influence perception and mood in controlled lab settings, but promises of dramatic, hidden reprogramming are overstated. The second practice is binaural or isochronic stimulation. Audio tones played at slightly different frequencies in each ear to produce an apparent beat frequency in the brain. Some users report deepened immersion or a sense of altered temporal flow when using these tones alongside guided imagery. The mechanisms here are plausible. Auditory stimulation can modify arousal and attentional focus, but affects vary widely across individuals. When content creators combine scripting with layered audio and a short ritual like a Raven cue, they create a multimodal package that maximizes rehearsal and attention capture. That combination, text, sound, and symbol, is effective because it engages multiple sensory channels simultaneously. If you rehearse the same script while hearing a steady ambient tone and performing a small gesture, you create a robust associative network. Scene left-right arrow sound left-right arrow gesture. Later, any one of those cues can trigger recall of the full scene. It's important to emphasize the anecdotal nature of most claims you'll see online. Community reports are powerful and meaningful. People often describe profoundly moving subjective events, but they are not controlled demonstrations of metaphysical facts. Instead, they show what happens when motivated imagers apply repeated rehearsal, expectation, and sensory detail. Some experiences are clearly dreamlike. Others are intense imaginative states or dissociative episodes. The line between them is porous, and individual differences, including psychological vulnerability, shape where people fall on that continuum. Because these methods are so accessible, there are a few practical cautions worth stating plainly. First, brevity and dramatization on social platforms can make techniques look simpler than they are. A 2-minute clip cannot capture the preparation, integration, or cultural context that often mattered in older practices. Second, any practice that encourages dissociation from present reality should be approached with care. If you have a history of psychosis, severe anxiety, or dissociative disorders, consult a clinician before experimenting with deep visualization or REM targeting techniques. Third, be mindful of cultural boundaries. Symbolic language and ritual imagery can be borrowed respectfully if you credit sources and avoid claiming authority over practices rooted in other people's spiritual systems. To give you a clearer sense of how these methods appear in practice, we'll run 3 brief, neutral demonstrations, each only a few moments long and intentionally non-prescriptive. The purpose is descriptive, to show the form of the technique so you can understand how it works in principle, not to teach a full practice. First, a short scripting example. Imagine a single present tense paragraph describing a favorite space. Read it aloud slowly once, then close your eyes and hold the most striking detail for 10 seconds. That's rehearsal in miniature. You generate a sensory anchor and test how readily your mind returns to it. Second, a vignette of a Raven-style doorway. Visualize a simple threshold, an arch with a color that feels significant to you. Walk to it in your imagination, notice one texture, then step back. The point is not to vanish into an alternate world now, but to feel how a symbolic cue can organize attention. Third, an audio stacking example. Listen for 30 seconds to a very short ambient tone, while silently repeating an affirming sentence such as, "I will remember this scene." Notice whether the tone helps you focus or whether it's distracting. Personal tolerance varies, so don't push beyond comfort. Each of these micro-experiments shows the mechanics. Create a cue, repeat it, anchor it, and test whether it changes how easily your mind reconstructs the scene. In longer practice, people extend those steps, longer scripts, more elaborate anchors, and slower integration. That's why we offer an extended downloadable protocol for practice with built-in safety checks and journaling prompts. Finally, a brief word on community claims and verification. Many people report striking outcomes. Highly vivid dream visits, changes in mood, or transformative creative insights. These reports are valuable data about subjective experience, but they don't settle metaphysical questions. To evaluate these claims scientifically, you would need controlled protocols, objective measures like diary corroboration or lab markers, and careful attention to expectation effects. For our purposes, the takeaway is pragmatic. If a technique produces a meaningful change in your subjective experience and you can integrate it safely into your life, it may be useful. If it causes distress or persistent detachment, stop and seek support. Now that you understand the forms these modern methods take, the raven symbol as a cue, scripting as sensory rehearsal, and layered audio as arousal modulation, we'll move to the neuroscience that explains why these approaches can be effective. In the next section, we'll look at REM sleep, lucid dreaming research, and how suggestion and expectation shape perception in altered states. To understand why scripting, ritual cues, and layered audio can produce striking subjective experiences, we need to look at what the brain is doing during dreaming and imaginative states, and how attention, expectation, and sensory rehearsal shape perception. Sleep researchers divide sleep into stages. One of the most relevant is REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep. REM is the stage when dreams are often most vivid and when the brain shows patterns of high cortical activity paired with muscle atonia. Your body is relaxed while the mind can be highly active. REM is associated with rapid eye movements, irregular breathing, and a pattern of neural activation that supports intense imagery and emotion. That's why so much research on lucid dreaming targets REM. It's the neural environment where immersive, hallucinatory experiences are most likely to occur. Lucid dreaming introduces an important twist. It's dream experience plus a degree of metacognitive awareness. The dreamer knows they are dreaming. Laboratory studies, beginning with pioneers like Stephen LaBerge, used clever behavioral markers, deliberate eye movement signals from within REM, to show that people can become self-aware while remaining in dream sleep. Neuroimaging of lucid dreams, while technically challenging, suggests that lucidity involves increased activity in certain prefrontal areas associated with metacognition and monitoring. In other words, lucid dreams look, at least partially, like dream states with an awakened monitoring system overlaid. Why does that matter for modern methods? Because many of the techniques people use are essentially ways to bias the brain toward that combination. Strengthen mental monitoring, increase the salience of a cue, and time intention to a sleep window. Reality checks, mnemonic induction, and wake back-to-bed protocols are built on this logic. They cultivate a habit of questioning your state of consciousness during the day, reinforce the specific intention to recognize dreaming, and exploit moments of heightened REM propensity to seed that intention into sleep. The mechanisms are straightforward. Repeated rehearsal strengthens associative memory, and when the brain moves from wakefulness into REM, those associations can be reactivated. But sleep is only one part of the picture. Cognitive neuroscience also tells us that imagination and perception share neural resources. When you vividly imagine a scene, whether through reading a script or rehearsing a doorway, your brain recruits many of the same sensory and emotional circuits it uses when you actually perceive those things. Functional imaging studies show that visualizing a detailed face or place lights up regions in the visual cortex and the medial temporal lobe that are involved in memory and imagery. That neural overlap helps explain why sensory-rich scripting can feel so vivid. You are effectively activating perceptual circuits through top-down signals. Expectation and suggestion further modulate perception. Decades of psychological research have demonstrated robust expectancy effects. The so-called placebo effect is a prime example. If you expect that a stimulus will be intense or meaningful, your brain is more likely to experience it that way. In the realm of imagination and dream practice, expectation operates similarly. Strongly held beliefs about what will happen can bias attention toward confirming evidence. increase the salience of particular mental images, and amplify emotional response. That's why community narratives matter. Videos and testimonials create a cultural expectation that certain methods will produce dramatic outcomes, and this expectation amplifies subjective reports. Individual differences are crucial. Not everyone is equally susceptible to these processes. Researchers measure traits like hypnotizability, absorption, and imagery vividness because they predict how deeply someone experiences guided imagery or dissociative phenomena. People high in absorption report more immersive imagery and are more responsive to suggestion. Sleep quality and chronology matter too. Someone who is sleep-deprived or who regularly naps may enter REM more quickly under certain conditions, which can change how likely a practice is to intersect with dream processes. Genetic and developmental factors contribute as well, so the same method can produce very different results across people. We should also discuss the role of arousal and attentional control. Auditory stimulation, whether binaural beats, isochronic tones, or low-volume affirmations layered into ambient tracks, can alter cortical arousal and attentional focus. In some users, steady binaural stimulation helps create a feeling of temporal stretch or deepened concentration, which may make imagery feel richer. The empirical evidence here is mixed. Controlled studies find small to moderate effects under some conditions, but results vary widely with protocol, individual sensitivity, and expectation. What is clear is that sound is a powerful contextual cue. It structures time, masks distracting noise, and can be paired with rehearsal to create associative links between tone and scene. Another mechanism to consider is memory reconsolidation. When you vividly rehearse a scene, you are reactivating memory networks. Each time those networks are reactivated, they enter a label state and can be updated or strengthened. From a cognitive perspective, scripting repeatedly strengthens the accessibility of that mental content, making it easier for the brain to assemble that scene spontaneously in hypnagogia, dream time, or focused imagination. This isn't mystical. It's the ordinary plasticity of neural networks responding to repeated rehearsal. There are also boundary conditions and risks. Intense immersion can sometimes slip into dissociation for vulnerable individuals. Dissociation is a spectrum. Mild forms include daydreaming or being deeply absorbed in a book. More severe forms involve disconnection from the sense of self or reality. Practices that encourage blurring of internal and external markers of reality can, in rare cases, exacerbate dissociative symptoms or trigger anxiety in those with underlying vulnerabilities. That is why clear safety guidance is essential. Stop practices that provoke persistent derealization, seek professional support if episodes continue, and avoid intensive protocols if you have a history of psychosis or severe dissociative disorders. Another risk is confirmation bias and social reinforcement. Online communities can amplify reports of success and quietly discourage or underreport negative outcomes. That skews the available anecdotal evidence and can create unrealistic expectations. For responsible experimentation, logging experiences, spacing sessions, and including neutral or skeptical controls, for example, trying a neutral script and comparing outcomes, help create a more balanced personal dataset. Finally, let's put these mechanisms together in practical terms. The methods we discussed earlier, the Raven cue, scripting, and layered audio, each tap into different complementary neural processes. The Raven cue functions as a symbolic trigger that structures attention and provides a compact behavioral ritual. Scripting activates perceptual and memory circuits through sensory detail and repetition. Layered audio modulates arousal and provides a temporal scaffold. When combined, they create a multimodal package that maximizes associative strength. Symbol plus sound plus sensory script equals a robust cue complex. That's why community packages can feel so potent. At the same time, the neuroscience encourages humility. Neural activation during vivid imagination is real, but subjective intensity does not by itself prove metaphysical relocation. What we can say with confidence is this: these practices reliably alter subjective experience by leveraging known brain mechanisms, REM physiology, imagery circuits, expectation effects, and associative memory. Whether that altered experience corresponds to an ontologically distinct alternate reality is a question that sits outside what these measures can demonstrate. It is a philosophical or metaphysical claim rather than a cognitive neuroscientific one. Understanding these mechanisms helps guide safer practice. Use clear anchors to return to the present. Avoid prolonged disengagement, space intensive sessions, and keep a written log to track patterns. When experiences are integrated with everyday life through journaling, discussion, and slow pacing, they are more likely to produce creative insight or emotional processing rather than destabilization. Now that we've covered the brain science and psychological mechanisms behind these experiences, we'll move into a practical, conservative guided workshop. That practice will use many of the elements we've discussed: intention setting, sensory scripting, and a simple anchor, but in a short, carefully bounded format. If you decide to continue beyond the on-air session, the extended protocol in the episode notes includes additional safety checks and integration exercises. Before we begin, a few important notes. This practice is an extended guided visualization designed to be grounding and reversible. If you have a history of psychosis, severe dissociation, epilepsy, or other serious psychiatric or neurological conditions, please consult a clinician before doing deep visualization work. If at any point you feel panicked, disoriented, or uncomfortable, stop the practice, take a few slow breaths, and reorient to your surroundings. If symptoms persist, contact a healthcare professional. Find a comfortable position where you can remain undisturbed for the next half hour or more. You may sit with both feet flat on the floor or lie down with support under your knees. Keep a glass of water nearby. Decide now whether you prefer to keep your eyes closed for most of the session or to open them when instructed. Begin. Take a breath in through your nose and let it out through your mouth. Again, inhale and exhale. Notice the surface supporting your body. Notice any contact points. The soles of your feet, the weight of your thighs, the feel of your forearms. Let your body know it is safe to settle. Grounding and orientation. Gently bring your attention to the rhythm of your breath. Breathe in for a count that feels natural, and breathe out a little longer than the in-breath. With each out-breath, allow your shoulders to soften. As you breathe, notice 3 things in the room around you: a sound, a color, a texture. Notice them casually, then let them go and return to your breath. Set your intention. Now, in your mind or out loud, state a clear intention for this session. Keep it simple and affirmative. You might say, "My intention is to explore safely and return grounded," or "My intention is to visit." Describe target briefly. Notice details and come back with clear memories. Say it once. If it helps, repeat it softly on your next 3 breaths. Let that intention sit like a compass in the center of your awareness. Progressive relaxation. Starting at the top of your head, bring gentle awareness to your scalp, your forehead. Soften your brow. Let the muscles around your eyes relax. Move attention down the face, the jaw, the mouth. If your jaw is clenched, allow it to part slightly. Soften the tongue in the mouth. Shift your awareness to the neck and throat. Relax the shoulders and let them drop away from your ears. Follow the arms down to the hands. Feel weight in the palms. Move your attention into the chest. Allow the ribs to expand and to release. Breathe into a place that feels a little tight, then let it ease. Bring the awareness further down into the abdomen. With each out-breath, imagine the belly letting go. Soften the hips and pelvis. Let the muscles of the thighs loosen. Allow the knees to bend or relax. Follow the sensation down to the calves and ankles. Let the feet relax and feel heavy where they touch the floor or the surface beneath you. Breath anchoring. Return your attention to the breath. Notice its natural cadence. If your mind wanders, Gently bring it back to the sensation at the nostrils or the rise and fall of the belly. On each out-breath, imagine releasing any tension you no longer need for this practice. Sensory check and safety anchor. Now create a simple physical anchor to help you return later. Bring the tips of your thumb and index finger on your dominant hand together, lightly pressing. Sense the small pressure where the two fingertips meet. As you press, silently say to yourself, "I am grounded," or choose a phrase that resonates, such as, "I am here, I am safe." Press and say the phrase twice, feeling the connection in your fingertips. In the future, pressing these fingers together will be your cue to reorient and feel steady. Imagery scaffolding, building the scene. We will now construct the place you wish to explore. You can choose a fanverse location, a parallel life scene, or a personally meaningful place. If you are undecided, choose a neutral scene. A quiet coastal cafe at dusk, a meadow with a river, or an old familiar room. Begin by naming the place simply. Place name. Imagine yourself standing at a small distance from the center of the scene. Notice the overall light. Is it warm, cool, dim, bright? Allow the color and quality of that light to fill the scene. Bring in spatial details. What is immediately in front of you? What is to your left and right? What lies behind you? Notice the horizon or the boundaries of the space. If there are structures, a doorway, a path, a table, let them settle into place. Now layer in sensory detail slowly and deliberately. For each modality, pause and allow an image or sensation to arise. Sight. What colors dominate? What textures are visible? Are there small objects nearby that draw your eye? Sound. Listen. Is there wind, distant conversation, music, the lap of waves? Allow a gentle ambient sound to form. Smell. What scents are present? Coffee, salt, rain on pavement, pine? If a scent is absent, imagine a plausible one. The brain will accept it. Touch. What is the surface under your feet? Is there a breeze on your skin? Is the air warm or cool against your face? Taste. If relevant, imagine a faint taste. Sea salt, citrus, the memory of warm tea. Emotion. What feeling arises in this place? Calm, curiosity, anticipation, a soft joy? Name the feeling briefly. Take time here to inhabit these details. There is no rush. The more specific and concrete the sensory descriptions, the more your mind will have to hold and return to. Scripting a short scene in the present tense. Now create a 2-minute present tense script in your mind. Speak it as if it is happening now. Keep sentences simple and sensory rich. Example: I walk up to the small wooden table by the window. The table is warm from the sun. A cup of coffee sends steam into the air. I hear the bell as the door opens. She looks up and smiles. Sunlight catches the silver in her hair. If you like, tailor the script to your chosen destination. Include 1 or 2 small interactions, a short line of dialogue, or a specific action you will perform there. Rehearse the script silently once or twice, letting each detail sink in. As you rehearse, press your fingertip anchor once to strengthen the association between the script and your anchor. Doorway or threshold visualization. Now imagine a simple threshold or doorway in this scene. It can be literal, a door, an archway, a path between trees, or symbolic, a shimmer in the air, a curtain of light. Notice the frame, its color and texture. Notice how it feels to stand before it. When you approach this threshold, notice the small details on the frame. The grain of the wood, the cold of a metal handle, the warm pulse of light. Decide now whether you will step through fully, step partway, or simply observe. There is no correct choice. The doorway is an invitation to move attention. It is not a demand. Preparing for immersion, pacing, and permission. Before stepping through, remind yourself of 2 practical rules. You are in control, and you can return at any time by using your anchor or by simply opening your eyes. If at any point things feel too intense, press your fingertips, say your grounding phrase, and take 3 steady breaths. When you are ready, take 3 deep inhales. With the 3rd exhale, imagine the doorway opening for you. Step through at a pace that feels natural. Extended immersive scene exploration. Now that you are in the scene, allow time to explore. Walk slowly. Notice the quality of movement in this place. Reach out and touch a surface. If there is another person present, you may watch them for a moment or invite a brief exchange, a greeting, a question, a shared laugh. If you prefer solitude, move to a quiet corner or sit at a table and listen to the ambience. As you explore, occasionally engage the senses again. Smell a new scent, focus on a particular sound, or notice a color you hadn't seen before. Ask one simple question of the scene if it feels natural. What here is most important for me to notice? Or what detail will stay with me when I return? Wait for whatever arises, even if that is simply a mood or a fleeting image. If emotions arise, nostalgia, wonder, grief, observe them with a gentle curiosity. Allow feeling to be present without pushing it away. If a strong feeling becomes overwhelming, use your anchor, breathe, and return to the safe awareness of your physical body. Active engagement prompts. Choose 1 or 2. Speak a short line to a person in the scene and notice their response. Touch an object and describe silently 3 qualities of its texture. Walk to the horizon and note 1 change in the light. Sit and listen. Count 3 distinct background sounds. Anchor reinforcement while immersed. While you are in the scene, press your fingertip anchor again and repeat your grounding phrase softly. Notice how the anchor feels while you are both present in the imagined space and aware of your body. This dual awareness is key. You can hold internal experience and external orientation simultaneously. Optional fanverse or timeline branching, use only if comfortable. If you chose a fanverse or an alternate timeline, you may briefly invite a small, contained variation. Change the time of day, alter 1 object, or imagine a different outcome to a short interaction. Keep changes modest and reversible. The goal is not to test limits of reality, but to deepen sensory vividness and narrative coherence. Sitting with the scene. Spend a period now in quiet exploration. Allow several minutes to fully inhabit the space. Keep your anchor accessible and breathe steadily. Preparing to return, closing the scene. When you feel ready to return, gently let the scene know you are preparing to leave. You might say a short farewell internally, "Thank you," or "I will return if needed." Walk back toward the doorway or threshold you used to enter. Notice the same details on the frame. Feel your feet as you approach the threshold. Step back through the doorway slowly. Feel the transition as a soft reorientation rather than an abrupt cut. Bring with you 1 or 2 clear, bounded memories from the scene. A color, a phrase, a sensory detail. Press your fingertip anchor once as you cross back and say your grounding phrase softly. Reorientation and embodiment. Now that you are back in the room, reconnect with the physical senses. Wiggle your toes and feel the surface under your feet. Move your hands and notice the pressure of the fingertips. Take 3 deeper breaths. On the next in-breath, bring attention fully into your chest and belly. If your eyes are closed, you may open them when ready. Take a slow, grounding stretch or roll of the shoulders. Take a sip of water if you would like. Journaling and integration. Before you move on, take a few minutes to record what you experienced. Use 3 headings: scene details, emotions, anchor/return. Under scene details, write 2 or 3 concrete sensory items you remember: color, phrase, object. Under emotions, note predominant feelings and any intensity rating from 1 to 10. Under anchor/return, Record whether the fingertip anchor felt effective and whether you used it during the practice. If you noticed anything unsettling, persistent derealization, strong anxiety, or confusion, pause journaling and do a short grounding routine. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Repeat the grounding anchor and take a short walk if possible. Aftercare and spacing recommendations. For the next 24 hours, favor gentle activities. Hydration, light movement, talking with a friend if you feel inclined, and brief journaling before sleep. Avoid intensive alterations, no alcohol or heavy stimulants immediately after deep visualization, and avoid late-night heavy sessions if you are prone to sleep disruption. If you choose to continue practicing, space extended sessions at least 2 to 3 days apart at first. Keep a simple log for 7 days noting date, method used, length, intensity, 1 to 10, and integration notes, what grounded you. This helps you track patterns and notice whether particular methods are stabilizing or destabilizing. If you experienced any strong, persistent negative effects, contact a mental health professional and share your log. In many cases, talking through the content with a trained clinician or an experienced practitioner can be stabilizing and informative. Closing reflection. Take a final, slow breath. Offer a brief thanks to yourself for doing this work and to whatever inner or symbolic resources felt present for you. Remember, imagination is a powerful tool. When used mindfully, it can foster creativity, emotional processing, and personal insight. When used recklessly, it can cause confusion or overwhelm. Treat your practice like a craft, slow, repeated, and well integrated. When you are ready, return your awareness to the room. Press your fingertip anchor one final time and say your grounding phrase. Open your eyes if they are closed. Stretch gently, and when it feels right, begin to write in more detail about the experience using the 3 journaling headings. Thank you for taking this time. If you wish, you can return to this protocol later for a recorded version with timing markers, optional ambient audio, and an extended 30 to 40-minute script with additional anchors and checkpoints, risks, cautions, and when to stop. If at any point during or after these practices you experience persistent panic, disorientation, derealization, visual or auditory hallucinations that continue after the session, or any sudden worsening of mood or sleep, stop immediately and seek professional help. If you feel acutely unsafe, contact your local emergency services. Do not attempt intensive or prolonged shifting protocols if you have a history of psychosis, untreated bipolar disorder, severe dissociative disorders, recent severe trauma, or active suicidal ideation. If you are unsure, consult a licensed mental health professional before trying extended practices. These guidelines are precautionary. The techniques are rooted in imagination and altered states, which can be destabilizing for some people. Practical safety rules. Keep sessions time-limited, especially at first. Avoid long, late-night sessions until you know how you respond. Always use a physical anchor you trust, for example, the fingertip anchor used in the workshop, and rehearse it before immersion. Space intensive sessions at least 2 to 3 days apart initially. Track effects in a short log. Avoid alcohol, heavy stimulants, or other mind-altering substances immediately before or after sessions. If you experience distress, use grounding techniques. Orient to 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, 1 you can taste. Breathe slowly until you feel steady. Mental health integration and follow-up. Journaling. After each session, record 3 concrete sensory details, core emotions, and whether you used your anchor. Note intensity on a 1 to 10 scale. Share selectively. Tell one trusted friend or partner about intense sessions so you have social support if you feel unsettled. Professional help. If episodes of derealization, intrusive imagery, or anxiety persist, Schedule an appointment with a mental health professional and bring your log to help contextualize the experiences. Sleep hygiene. Keep consistent sleep schedules and avoid using intense visualizations immediately before unavoidable tasks or driving. Ethics and cultural responsibility. Credit sources. Many modern techniques borrow symbols, metaphors, and structures from indigenous and religious traditions. Credit and name sources when possible. Avoid appropriation. Do not present sacred or culturally specific rituals as entertainment or casual DIY. If a practice comes from a living tradition, seek permission and guidance from appropriate community representatives. Do no harm. Do not offer therapeutic claims or clinical interventions unless you are a qualified professional. If someone shares distressing content with you, encourage them to seek professional support rather than attempting to fix them with techniques. Integration practices for constructive use. Slow integration. After a striking session, spend time doing low-stimulation activities, walking, journaling, light conversation, rather than immediately re-immersing. Creative harvesting. Use intense imagery as material for creative work, writing, art, music, so the experience has productive expression. Small experiments. Treat methods as experiments. Compare a scripted session to a neutral visualization and note differences. Keep a 7-day log to detect patterns. Ritual closure. Develop a short closing ritual after each session. 3 breaths, anchor press, and a written line of gratitude or a single concrete note to remind you of embodied reality. Community sharing guidelines. Share responsibly. If posting experiences online, include a short safety note and a reminder that these are personal reports, not guarantees. Respect privacy. Don't pressure others to try shifting techniques, and avoid sharing others' sensitive narratives without consent. Use the hashtag thoughtfully. If you use the community tag to share experiments, indicate method, session length, and whether you had any adverse effects. This helps community learning and harm reduction. When to seek professional support. Persistent derealization or depersonalization beyond a day or two. New or worsening psychotic symptoms, hallucinations, or paranoid ideation. Prolonged sleep disruption, panic attacks, or functional impairment. If any of these occur, contact a licensed mental health provider or your primary care clinician. Take a moment now to reflect. What is one concrete sensory detail you will carry from tonight's practice? What is one small, constructive action you will take in the next 24 hours to integrate the experience? Write both items down. If you found this session useful, download the full 30 to 40-minute guided protocol and the 7-day log in the episode notes to continue practicing with built-in safety checks. If you share your experiment, tag it with the community hashtag so others can learn from your method and outcome. Remember, curiosity and caution together make for the most sustainable practice. Thank you for exploring this practice with care. Be gentle with yourself, keep track of how you feel, and return slowly. We'll continue the conversation next episode. Vote on what you'd like to see. A deep dive with a lucid dreaming researcher, a culturally informed look at ritual journeying, or a creative workshop on scripting. Goodbye for now. Like, subscribe, comment if you like the video, and share with the friends. Credits and sources are listed in the episode description for further reading.